Hello friends, this is Himanshu Jain from the Wall Street School. Now in the last decade or so, we have placed hundreds of students in the KPMGs and the Deloittes and the PwCs of the world in the mergers and acquisitions vertical. Now a lot of students have been asking us to make a video on this particular field. So in this video, we are going to cover the meaning of merger and acquisition, the difference of merger and acquisition, the types of mergers and acquisition. We'll also be covering the various responsibilities which candidates have once they're working in this mergers and acquisition field. We'll also be covering some latest examples of mergers and acquisitions so that you understand this concept in a more lucid manner. So let's get started.
Hello everyone, all of us have heard this before. Investment banking is one of the most lucrative careers that you can think in the field of finance. Investment bankers earns crores of rupees as their fees, as their commission, right? But what exactly they do, it's kind of mystery for a common man. I'll be addressing that today. In specific, I'll be talking about mergers and acquisition activities done by investment bankers. In a bulge bracket investment bank, that is a very large investment bank like Goldman, JP Morgan. These kinds of investment bank have multiple divisions operating within them. Out of that, one of the division is mergers and acquisition division. I'll be talking about mergers and acquisitions in this video. I have divided this video into two parts. The first part will be establishing foundation for our future discussion, in which I'll be discussing theory of mergers and acquisition that you should know, and then I'll be talking about how practically it is done at investment bank, right? Okay, let us start from the very basic. What's the meaning of term merger and acquisition? So contrary to regular belief, these terms are spoken together does not mean they have the same meaning. Merger is a separate term, acquisition is a separate term, though these terms are spoken together as M&A. So what's the reason they are spoken together? The reason is, in a big bulge bracket investment bank, the team that is responsible to handle mergers is also responsible to handle acquisition. Therefore, the team behind mergers and acquisitions deal is the same. Therefore, they are spoken together and called as M&A. Okay. Now, firstly, let us define merger. In merger, suppose a company called as company A and another company called as company B. Both of these companies will come together, will merge into one another and will create another company, say C. Let me give you one example for merger. Few years back, there was a company called as Idea Limited. There was another company called as Vodafone India, right? Both of these companies merged together to create Vodafone Idea. This is example of merger in which two different companies are coming together and forming another company. In this case, Idea and Vodafone combine together to create Vodafone Idea, right? Now let us understand the term acquisition. In acquisition, company A will acquire shares in company B. So B will go out of existence if it is 100% acquisition. Otherwise, both of them will exist. So there could be three types of acquisition. One is minority acquisition. One is majority acquisition. And one is 100% acquisition, right? Let me give you example to explain this also. Very recently, a company called as Facebook Incorporation, it's an American company, Facebook.com, the owner of Facebook.com, Facebook Incorporation acquired shares in Reliance Jio. It was a minority acquisition. I don't remember the exact percentage, but I think it was somewhere around 9%. So this is acquisition in which one company acquired shares of another company. In this case, it was Facebook becoming minority holder of Reliance Jio. This is the difference between mergers and acquisition. Now let us move ahead and talk about types of mergers and acquisition. So in investment banking, we have 5 types of mergers and acquisition. The first one is called as horizontal merger. The second one is called as vertical merger. The third one is called as conglomerate merger. The fourth one is called as concentric merger. And the last one is called as reverse merger. Right? Though I have written the term merger here, I mean merger and acquisition, right? These terms are spoken together. That's why I've written only the term merger over here. So whenever I'm talking about merger, indirectly I'm implying acquisition also. So now let us talk about horizontal merger. Let's discuss that. Okay, in horizontal merger, companies that are operating at the same level of value chain, or let me put it in another words, they are direct competitors, in which one competitor acquires another competitor or two competitors are merged together. Example could be very recently Zomato acquired Uber Eats. This was example of horizontal merger, in which online food delivery service called as Zomato acquired another online food delivery service in India, that is Uber Eats. Another example could be, this was one, another example could be Airtel acquiring Tata Teleservices. Right? In fact, horizontal mergers are the very common type of mergers. Other than this, one more example could be when Bhushan Steel was acquired by Tata Steel. Another example could be when Vijaya Bank and Dena Bank was merged with Bank of Baroda. Right? Both of them were banks, like Vijaya Bank, Dena Bank, both of them were banks that were merged with another bank operating in India. Another example could be, say, when State Bank of Jaipur, State Bank of Patiala and State Bank of Bikaner was merged with State Bank of India. These were multiple companies operating in banking sector in India, direct competitors to each other. All of them were merged with State Bank of India. This is example of horizontal merger. This is the most common kind of merger that we see in industry. Right? I hope you are able to appreciate this fact. Now let us move ahead and talk about vertical mergers. Let's discuss this. Before we understand what is vertical merger, we need to learn few points about value chain. Let's learn that first. Suppose there is a manufacturer of a fiber cable. So this is a value chain related to, say, fiber internet. So there is a manufacturer of fiber cable. Above it, there is another manufacturer who manufactures, say, electrical equipments that are used to provide that internet connection. Other than that, there is another company that take contracts to install fiber cable across city. There is another company that is distributing fiber connection. And there is another company, let's say, that is looking after repair and maintenance and customer relationship management for internet connections. This is a value chain of typical fiber internet connection. Now suppose the company that is distributing fiber connections is Reliance Jio, right? Now if this Reliance Jio, the distributor of fiber connections, is acquiring this company that is looking after repair and maintenance and customer relationship management, this is called as forward integration. And now suppose instead of acquiring this company, Reliance Jio is going to acquire this manufacturer of fiber cable. It is called as backward integration. Why this is called as forward and why this is called as backward? In value chain, this is moving towards supplier and this is moving towards consumer. So whenever a company takes a step towards consumer, it is called as forward integration, and whenever a company takes a step towards supplier, it is called as backward integration. These are two types of vertical mergers. Let us take one more classic example of vertical merger in India. As much as I remember, in 1966 Reliance Industries started. Firstly, they were manufacturer of polyester textile. Right? To manufacture this polyester, they require yarn and fiber. So they entered into business of yarn and fiber. To get this yarn and fiber, you needed petrochemicals. So Reliance entered into business of petrochemicals. For these petrochemicals, you need refineries. So these petrochemicals were extracted from petroleum products. So you needed refineries. So Reliance entered into refinery business, refinery of petroleum. Then these petroleum products were obtained from oil wells. So they entered into oil and gas exploration. So this is example of deep backward integration, in which one company in the same value chain acquires a company that is above it or below it in that value chain. They are not direct competitors. A person who is taking contracts to distribute fiber connection is not competing with another company that is manufacturing fiber cable, but they are operating in the same value chain. So this is called as vertical mergers. I hope it is very clear. Now let us move ahead and talk about conglomerate mergers. Let's discuss that. So before understanding this term conglomerate merger, let us understand the meaning of the term conglomerate. And for this, let me name few famous conglomerates in India. Example could be Tata Group. Another example could be Aditya Birla Group. Another example could be Reliance Industry. These are famous conglomerates in India. Conglomerates is a business entity or a business group that is into various industries. So say for Tata Group, you can find them in steel industry by name of Tata Steel. You can find them in automobile industry by name of Tata Motors. You can find them in hotel industry by name of Indian Hotels. You can find them in chemical industry by name of Tata Chemicals. You can find them in say power industry by name of Tata Power. And so many businesses, right? Tata Steel this business is not related to, say, hotel business. Steel and hotel are entirely different industries, but they are operating within one group. Therefore, Tata is known as conglomerate. That is, it is in multiple businesses. Now I think you can understand the term conglomerate merger. So conglomerate merger means where two companies of very different industries combine together, or one company from different industry buys another company from another industry. It is known as conglomerate merger. But why it is done so? There are almost zero synergy benefits for conglomerate merger, but there is business risk diversification because of conglomerate merger. Example could be, suppose a listed company called as Sayaji Hotels. It is into hotels business. Sayaji Hotels acquires a company that is into education, say Upgrad. So hotel industry and education industry as such are not connected. But Sayaji Hotels would be able to diversify its business risk. Suppose during April, May, June, July, when hotel business was zero, if they were in only hotel business, they might have suffered losses. But hypothetically, suppose they were also in educational business, edtech business, they could have made good revenues from education, right? So this diversifies their business risk, and this is why conglomerate mergers are done. Obviously, there are few downsides related to it, inefficient use of capital and all, but it's not a topic of discussion here, right? Now let us move ahead and let us talk about concentric mergers. In concentric mergers, companies operating in related business segment offering different products. Their business segments are related, but the products that they offer are different. So offering different products or offering complementary products. So what do I mean by complementary product? Say for toothpaste, it will be toothbrush, right? And have similar target audience. When such type of companies, one acquire another or one merges with another company, it is called as concentric merger. Let us understand this with the help of example. In April 2020, I heard this news that Zomato is going to acquire Grofers. So Zomato, online food delivery company, going to acquire another online delivery company, but it's not delivering food, it is delivering vegetables and all. It's a cooked meal, it's raw material for the meal. So Zomato is going to acquire Grofers. So they have similar target audience. That means the customers who are using internet and are doing transactions over internet are the target audience. Their business segment is also similar, online delivery, but are offering different products. One is offering cooked meal, one is offering another components that are required to cook a meal. So this is type of concentric merger. One more example that I can think of is when Oyo acquired Innovate. So Innovate is a co-working space and Oyo is a stay, right? Hotel business, hospitality business. The logic behind this merger of Oyo and Innovate was the person who is traveling for work will stay in Oyo and will have Innovate as its working place. So that was the rationale behind this merger. It is type of concentric merger. Let me give you food for your thought. When Axis Bank acquired Freecharge, it was kind of concentric merger. How? Think about it, right? I hope you are able to appreciate what is concentric merger. Very related companies offering different products but having similar target audience. When one company is buy another company, or when two such companies merge into one company, it is called as concentric merger. Now let us talk about the last type of merger, that is reverse merger. In reverse merger, private company acquires a public company. But why this acquisition is done, or why private company is merged into public company? To get exposure to capital markets, to get exposure to stock markets. This is called as reverse merger. Let us learn this by the help of example. All of us have heard about world's most famous investor, Warren Buffett, right? His tool to make investments is Berkshire Hathaway. Right now, all the investments made by Warren Buffett is under the umbrella of Berkshire Hathaway. But it was not originally an investment making tool or investment making company. It was somewhere in 1960s when Warren Buffett started his career as an investor. It was a textile company. And Warren Buffett acquired approximately 50% of this textile company, along with his other partnerships in insurance business, in banking sector and other sectors. He also purchased shares in textile company. During that period of 1960s, his textile investment was not doing very good, but his insurance business, like his partnership into insurance companies and other businesses, were doing extremely well. What he decided was to take this portfolio with other partnerships to public, and he transferred this portfolio to Berkshire Hathaway. Therefore, transferred his holdings to Berkshire Hathaway, and he was ultimately owner of Berkshire Hathaway. It doesn't made difference at that time, right? So at that particular time, Berkshire Hathaway was deriving its value from business, that is its textile business, and it was also deriving its value from investments done by Warren Buffett. Eventually, this business value became zero, and it is now one of the most valuable companies in the world because of the investment done by Warren Buffett. So this is example of reverse merger, in which these partnerships, these investments into other firms were taken public by transferring these shares to a public company, by transferring these shares to listed company. This is example of reverse merger, right? Now it is the correct time for us to understand practicality of things. This was all theoretical discussion. Now let us move ahead and let us understand buy and sell side of investment banking. In real life, you will be working on sell side M&A deal or buy side M&A deal in an investment bank. Let us learn meaning of sell side and let us learn meaning of buy side one by one. As the name suggests, sell side means you are helping your client to sell his company or his asset. This is called as sell side. You will be getting commission if you are able to conclude that sell. On buy side, you will be helping your client to buy a desired or suitable company or asset, right? This is called as buy side. Now let us talk about broad divisions of M&A activities in an investment bank. M&A activities in an investment bank can be divided into three phases. One is known as pre-merger activities. One is known as deal negotiation. And the last one is known as post-merger activities. Let us talk about all of them in detail. Firstly, let us discuss pre-merger activities. In pre-merger activities, the client will come to an investment bank and will request investment bank to help him to buy or sell his company. If investment bank is interested in the deal, they'll enter into a contract with the client where the fee structure will be decided and other terms of contract will be negotiated. And once this is done, the contract will be signed between the client and investment bank, and then investment bank will start with due diligence. There could be multiple types of due diligence depending upon the type of deal and size of deal. There could be a legal due diligence in which we need help of lawyers or auditors. There could be a financial due diligence. There could be a technical due diligence. There could be tax related due diligence, or there could be due diligence of patents, copyrights and other intellectual properties. Once investment bank have done this due diligence, they move towards the next step, that is preparation of financial models. When you join in investment bank, most probably you will be joining it as an analyst or maybe as an associate, and 90% of the time you will be preparing financial models or maybe preparing marketing materials. By the way, since we are talking about financial modeling, at the Wall Street School we have a full-fledged course on financial modeling and valuations, where we help you to learn financial modeling, valuations, Excel, PowerPoint and other details of investment banking, so that you are able to gain those skills that are required for excelling in your investment banking career. If you are interested, you can find the link in description. Coming back to the topic, financial models are prepared for two reasons. One is for doing valuations and one is to estimate deal size. Once financial models are prepared, you will start working on marketing material, that is teaser and pitch decks. Firstly, teaser are sent to prospective clients. So what exactly is a teaser? It is a 1-pager to 10-pager document approximately. It contains highlight about the company that is being bought or being sold. Name of company is not disclosed in teaser, only the highlights are disclosed, and this generally contains the positives of the company that is being bought or being sold. Suppose we have sent this teaser to 50 prospective clients in our list. Out of those 50 clients, 10 have shown interest in knowing more about the company. With those clients, investment bank will sign a non-disclosure agreement, that is an NDA. By this time you have only shared the highlights about the company that is being bought or being sold. Now you enter into an NDA. This NDA says that whatever information now investment bank is going to share with prospective client, the client will not share this information with any other person. Once this NDA is signed, investment bank shares pitch decks. What is a pitch deck? Generally 100-pager to up to 1000-pager document contains every single detail about company. If you want to buy or sell any business, whatever detail is required, ideally that should be there in pitch deck, right? Once, say out of 10 interested clients we have shared or signed NDA with, 4 of them show real interest in entering into the deal. Then we move towards the next step. By this time, if you are analyst or associate, majority of your work is done. We are moving towards the second part of the deal, that is deal negotiation. Managing director of your investment bank will meet prospective clients that are interested in buying or selling the company, will negotiate deal with them, will decide on the payout or pay-in structure, so what is a payout or pay-in structure? How the person who is selling the company will be remunerated, or the person who is buying the company is going to pay the person who is selling the company, right? It could be a all cash deal, it could be a cash plus equity deal, or it could be all equity deal. This is basically all the ways in which one person can get paid. Then the person who is willing to enter into the contract or willing to go through the deal enters the contract with client. That client and prospective client of investment bank will enter into a contract. Once both the parties have entered into contract, you apply to regulators for getting their approval. For example, the company in deal is a listed company, then you will have to apply to SEBI. If it is a banking company, you might have to apply to RBI. You might have to apply to Registrar of Companies. You might have to apply to Competition Commission of India or any other regulator whose permission is required to sanction the deal. Once the permission is received, the contract is signed, everything is in place, the payout will take place and the deal will be done. And once deal is done, we enter into the third phase, that is post merger. So there are three reasons for which generally mergers take place. One could be growth in a particular market, one could be survival, or one could be synergy. Let me give you example for all of them. Few years back, Walmart acquired Flipkart. They've done so because they wanted to grow in online market. For survival, Idea and Vodafone was merged into one entity so that they can challenge Reliance Jio. For synergy, Tata Motors acquired JLR. The reason was synergy, right? They can use technology from JLR to develop their own cars. So these are the reasons for any merger or acquisition. Everything is done by this time. You have entered into a contract, you have permission of regulators, money is being exchanged, everything is done. But to harvest these benefits is still pending. And if you are not able to do that, the merger will fail. Let us discuss the reasons for failure of merger or acquisition. Generally, merger or acquisition fails because of these four reasons. One could be political instability. If the government in the country where two countries are being merged or one company is acquiring another company, if it is stable, you might not be able to extract the synergies or growth or survival strategies from that merger. If the merger is cross border, what is cross border? Between two countries which have different currencies, then because of currency fluctuations, if the currency is very volatile for one country, you might not be able to get the synergies or growth or survival from that merger. Another reason could be cultural shock. For management, suppose a Japanese company acquires an Indian company. For Japanese, work-life balance is 15 hours of work and 9 hours of other activities. For Indians, it is 11 hours of work and remaining 13 hours for other activities. So if Indians are forced to work 15 hours a day, their productivity might not be as it is in normal case. So this might be one reason for failure of merger. Another one could be change of laws. Let me give you one example for change of laws. Suppose before merger, Government of India have one rule that prohibits any Indian company to purchase more than 1 lakh ton of rubber from a company in Thailand. Because of this rule, suppose an Indian company purchased a Thailand company that is producing rubber, and now it can import it, right? It is not purchasing from anyone else. Now they have a company in Thailand. Now they can produce their own rubber and bring it to India. This was the very basis for merger. In next month of merger, after merger, government allowed any quantity of rubber can be exported from any country in the world, including Thailand. This restriction of 1 lakh tons is now removed. The merger will fail. The sheer reason why this merger was done is now not existing, right? This is one of the reason, that is change of law, that can fail a merger. This was all about merger and acquisition from our side. I hope to see you guys in the next video. I hope you have learned something new and this have interested you. If you'd like to know more about financial modeling and valuations, you can check the link in description below. Bye bye everyone.